Robert "Bobbie" Evan Brown, Jr. was a recipient of the Medal of Honor for his actions at the Battle of Crucifix Hill, near Aachen, Germany, on October 8, 1944. He left home and joined the Army in 1922, lying about his age. At the start of World War II, he was the first sergeant of the Headquarters Company of the 2nd Armored Division. He received a battlefield commission to 2nd Lieutenant and was transferred to the 1st Infantry Division in 1943. Following the death of his company commander on D-Day, he assumed command of his company, Company C. Brown left the Army with the rank of captain in 1952. Early life. Robert Brown was born in Dublin, Georgia, in 1903 and left home in 1922 to join the Army at age 15. Military career. At the Army recruiters in Columbus, he told the sergeant he was 18, because he filled out his first enlistment papers with his nickname, Bobbie. That's how the Army knew him for next 3 decades. He qualified as an expert with every weapon in Army's arsenal and took up boxing and American football. He scored 38 victories in the ring and made All-Army team for football in 1927. 3 universities offered him scholarships to play football for them before they learned he'd only completed 7th grade. When World War II began, he was the first sergeant in the Headquarters Company of Patton's 2nd Armored Division. After fighting across North Africa, he received battlefield promotion to 2nd Lieutenant and transferred to the 1st Infantry Division. He led a platoon of Company C up Omaha Beach on D-Day. While fighting across France, he assumed command of his unit when his company commander was killed. Crucifix Hill. A few days later, the promotion became official. At 400, October 8, 1944, he received orders for an attack on Crucifix Hill. Of 43 known pillboxes and bunkers, his company was responsible for numbers Chapter 17, 18, 19, 20, 26, 29, and 30. After a formation of P-47 Thunderbolts finished an airstrike at 13:15, he led his company out of positions in a graveyard at the foot of the hill. They made it about 150 yards to an anti-tank ditch in front of Pillbox 18 before heavy German fire forced him to seek cover. He turned to his platoon sergeant, "Get me a couple of flamethrowers, some pole and satchel charges." Once armed with those, he had his rifleman lay down a base of fire, then started crawling alone toward the pillbox. A bomb had earlier blown a hole near the pillbox, which he jumped into and dropped a satchel charge through an aperture by a door. The pillbox erupted, clouds of smoke billowing from its rifle ports. He wriggled his way back to his men to pick up more charges and went back uphill 35 yards past the still smoking bunker and toward pillbox 19 while under heavy machine gun fire. Several mortar rounds fell nearby, slamming his body to the ground. Once in range, he dropped a pole charge through a 12-inch opening, blowing a hole in the pillbox, followed with a satchel charge. On his way back downhill for more charges, he noticed blood covering one knee. Then his sergeant told him, "Sir, there's bullet holes in your canteen." He had no idea when he'd been hit. Pillbox 20 was perhaps the largest and most heavily armed fortification on the hill. A turret, mounting a cut-down 88mm cannon, revolved 360 degrees on the top, while the concrete walls were 6 feet thick. The structure was manned by 45 soldiers with no less than 6 machine guns. Following a communications trench 20 yards from number 19 to 20, he threw 2 satchel charges through a steel door that an ammunition-laden soldier was entering through. With the destruction of Pillbox 20, enemy resistance on Crucifix Hill soon crumbled, allowing Allied forces to mop up and securing the 1st Division's flank. He was wounded during street fighting in Aachen when an artillery shell landed practically beside him. Numb, blood streaming from his nose, ears, and mouth, he headed for an aid station. He spent several months in a hospital in Belgium, then went home on a 30-day leave. He rejoined Company C in Germany and fought with it into Czechoslovakia. After the war ended, he flew home to receive his Medal of Honor on August 23, 1945. Medal of Honor Citation. Rank and Organization. Captain, U.S. Army, Company C, 18th Infantry, 1st Infantry Division. Place and date: Crucifix Hill, Aachen, Germany, October 8, 1944. Entered service at Atlanta, Georgia. Born September 2, 1903, Dublin, Go. No. 74, September 1, 1945. Citation: He commanded Company C, 18th Infantry Regiment, on October 8, 1944, when it, with the Ranger Platoon of the 1st Battalion, attacked Crucifix Hill, a key point in the enemy's defense of Aachen, Germany. As the leading rifle platoon assaulted the first of many pillboxes studding the rising ground, heavy fire from a flanking emplacement raked it. An intense artillery barrage fell on the American troops, which had been pinned down in an exposed position. Seeing that the pillboxes must be neutralized to prevent the slaughter of his men, Captain Brown obtained a pole charge and started forward alone toward the first pillbox, about 100 yards away. Hugging the ground while enemy bullets whipped around him, he crawled and then ran toward the aperture of the fortification, rammed his explosive inside and jumped back as the pillbox and its occupants were blown up. He rejoined the assault platoon, secured another pole charge, and led the way toward the next pillbox under continuous artillery, mortar, automatic, and small arms fire. He again ran forward and placed his charge in the enemy fortification, knocking it out. He then found that fire from a third pillbox was pinning down his company, so he returned to his men, secured another charge, and began to creep and crawl toward the hostile emplacement. With heroic bravery, he disregarded opposing fire and worked ahead in the face of bullets streaming from the pillbox. Finally reaching his objective, he stood up and inserted his explosive, silencing the enemy. He was wounded by a mortar shell but refused medical attention and, despite heavy hostile fire, moved swiftly among his troops, exhorting and instructing them in subduing powerful opposition. Later, realizing the need for information of enemy activity beyond the hill, Captain Brown went out alone to reconnoiter. He observed possible routes of enemy approach and several times deliberately drew enemy fire to locate gun emplacements. Twice more, on this self-imposed mission, he was wounded, but he succeeded in securing information which led to the destruction of several enemy guns and enabled his company to throw back two powerful counterattacks with heavy losses. Only when Company C's position was completely secured did he permit treatment of his 3 wounds. By his indomitable courage, fearless leadership, and outstanding skill as a soldier, Captain Brown contributed in great measure to the taking of Crucifix Hill, a vital link in the American line encircling Aachen. Later life. After the war ended, Brown spent the next 2 years in and out of hospitals, as Army doctors tried to repair the physical damage inflicted by 13 war wounds. He completed his 30 years of service to his country in 1952. In addition to the Medal of Honor, he was awarded 2 Silver Stars, 1 Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. Like so many men who had experienced intense combat, Brown was tormented by traumatic memories of his experiences during the war. Unable to find a good civilian job, he became a janitor at the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York. Haunted by unhappy memories of combat and in constant pain from war-related injuries, he committed suicide by a self-inflicted gunshot to his chest on November 8, 1971. He was subsequently buried in Section 46, Site 1021-17 of Arlington National Cemetery, not far from the Tomb of the Unknowns and the Memorial Amphitheater.